I'm delighted to have Peter Bachman back on the stage now, who's going to give us a session, 20-minute session on what's happening in London and the UK, what brands are hot, various trends. Now, we did talk earlier this afternoon about research and information in the restaurant industry. Well, of course, Peter Bachman, Managing Director of Horizons, they collect all the data on the food and beverage industry, so knows what's happening, knows the trends. Peter, welcome to GRIF, and thank you for returning to the stage.
Thought you were safe and I wasn't going to turn up. Here I am. What I'm really going to talk about is just to give you a little bit of, tiny bit of background to it, Horizon, so you know who I am, and it'll give you a little bit of confidence in what I'm going to say. Then I'll look at the eating out market in the UK, and I'll explain why the UK and why I'm looking at it, and it's not because I'm being a parochial Brit. And then I'll be looking at some of the companies and some of the brands and why they should be of interest. So a little bit about Horizons. This is our website, and really we're all about providing insight and information about the eating out market, which we describe as covering everything from prisons to upmarket hotels. So we cover many different fields of the eating out market. I'm obviously going just talking about the restaurant sector and more regularly the popular restaurant sector. So the services that we provide include a service called Ones to Watch, and I'll explain more about that shortly. But it's populated by some brands and some companies that you may not have heard of, and I'm going to lead up to why you should be interested in them. The top 5 are listed here, and we'll meet them again shortly. So I said I'd talk about London and why London, or the UK and specifically London, and we'll see later on that some of the brands I'm going to talk about are not purely based in London, but are actually more regionally based in many cases. For some reason or other, London and the UK has become much more gastronomically aware than it was. So 20, 30 years ago, it was easy to joke about British food. Nowadays, it's much more difficult, and we've heard about Jamie Oliver. We've heard him several times today already, and he's just one example. The Zagat survey said fairly recently that in diversity and depth of restaurants, London passed Paris 8 to 10 years ago. I still think New York is ahead. I used to say it was way ahead, but I think London is coming on stream and may pass it soon. And that's my justification for looking at London, a real global leader in restaurant innovation. But the market in the UK is very crowded. In the top right-hand corner, you can see some of the brands, and you may recognize some of them. Most of them are UK-based, but by no means all. Pizza Hut, for instance, TGI Fridays. But we have got many other brands that are purely found or primarily found in the UK and have their home in the UK. And they're dealing with a very diverse population. I made the point earlier on the panel about different requirements that customers have at different times of the day. So a lot of brands fighting for a lot of business in a lot of different ways, and that's one of the reasons that's driving the market. But it leads to a bit of confusion as to what the market is, and we were trying to define earlier what these words might mean. Casual dining, fast casual, fast food, upscale, pub food, whatever. We define the market in a number of different ways, and we say that casual dining is, and I'll express it in sterling, but and in dollars just to bring it into a perhaps more acceptable or more useful currency. Casual dining is average spend 10 to 20 pounds, $15 to $30 approximately. Fast casual is 5 to 10 pounds, that's sort of $8 to $15. And fast food is below that price, and upscale is above $20, $30 a head. And then within that, we have something that's unique to the UK. It really doesn't exist in any other country for historical reasons, and that's pub food, which is merging with the casual dining segment. So the UK market is quite complex but quite stratified. And I've got a couple of charts which give you some numbers. We don't need to go into them in a lot of detail, but basically to make the point that the total market is worth something in the order of 45 billion sterling, which is roughly $70 billion. It accounts for 28% of everything that we in Britain spend on food and drink, so it is a substantial consumer of our money. And bits of it I don't intend to talk about at all. So those are the bits in the white on this chart here, leaving about £26 billion worth, which is made up of fast food, quick service, full service, that's including the casual dining bit, quick service, including the fast casual, and pubs. A stratified market that has been growing, and I really don't want you to look at the detail on this chart. The point to make is that the popular eating out segment has been growing right through the recession, which was a really tough time in the UK, and is now showing signs of emerging. And within that, there have been growth sectors and there have been declining sectors. So one sector here, the first 3 or 4 columns are representing the restaurant sector, the full-service restaurant sector, which we can split up in many different ways, but they've all shown some growth. And they've been partly showing growth because pubs are serving more and more food to the point where actually you're probably more correct in considering them as restaurants. So there's a lot of movement from pubs into restaurants. In the quick service side, the fast food, that's the American chains primarily, McDonald's and Subway, Starbucks to a degree, have grown that market. And then there are quite a lot of independent operators who have not done so well during the recession. And then finally, as I said before, there's the pub sector. So different segments having reacted to the market, and particularly the tough economic times in different ways. And that has led to a point where we've got a number of what we call portfolio groups. So these are groups that own a number of different brands, and they're made up of companies that are primarily pub owners and primarily not pub owners. The pink bit is the proper restaurant-type service, that full service and quick service. The paler bits on those charts really represent pure alcohol sales that have nothing to do with food. So I've sort of taken those out of the equation. And we've got brands like Mitchell's, companies like Mitchell's and Butlers and Wetherspoons that are involved in pubs, but we've also got operators like the Restaurant Group and Gondola, who own Pizza Express, and Ask and Zizzy, very much pizza restaurants. Also substantial businesses in their own right in the UK food service market, sort of ranging in size from the low tens of millions of pounds up to well over £1 billion. So portfolio groups that own a number of different brands. But more significantly, there are casual dining brands that may be owned by one company, or one company may own a number of them. And franchising is not a feature of these brands in the UK market. UK brands tend not to franchise within the UK. Some US brands are franchised in the UK, such as TGI Fridays and McDonald's. But by and large, it's a non-franchise market. So these brands are all run by the companies that own the brand as well. So those are the established brands that have been around for some time. many of them for 10, 20, even 30 years. But there is a whole raft of new companies, and I don't expect you to read this chart, but just it's based on work that we do that looks at fast emerging smaller brands, 5 to 25 outlets, and outlet numbers growing by 20% or more over 3 years, which makes them substantial growth prospects. They're attracting a lot of interest from the investment community, particularly investors who want to get in on the ground floor. If you've got an operator with 5 or so outlets, they've got a proven business model, and they are just about to start growth. And that's the time when an investor may well want to get in to get advantage of the growth that's going to take them from 5 outlets to 25 outlets, and they have to pass through the pain barrier of moving from a single flat management structure which can handle 5 or 10 outlets to a more complex regional-based structure when you're getting up to 15 to 20 outlets. So the ones to watch are a very significant segment of the market, both for investors, and I also suggest as a way of learning what is happening, where the innovation is actually coming from. So just really for the next few minutes, I'd like to look at what the brands on this list actually represent in the marketplace. And I said before, these are the ones to watch. And we, every 6 months, we rank them, we produce a report on them, and we show the world what the ones to watch look like. So last October, and we're just in the process of updating our information now. Last October, Bill's was #1. Bill's is a healthy concept that was developed outside London, is now well into London, and is becoming a national brand. #2 is Meze, which is a small 6 or so unit operation based just to the west of London, where the food is Meze style, even though the food itself may be traditional UK, steak and chips, it's actually served Meze style for serving, sharing, really tapping into current consumer trends. #3 is Bubbleology, a fun offer that is directed at 18 to 25-year-olds, a complex product but fun. Turtle Bay was set up by the people who set up another very successful chain called Las Iguanas, and it's based on an American theme operation that, again, started outside London and is now coming into London. And finally, there's Ed's Easy Diner, which is a brand that's been around for 25 or so years. It's been given a whole new lease of life and is now finding its way in shopping malls and transport hubs throughout the UK. They'll probably become too large to be in ones to watch later this year. Currently, there are 24 outlets. Once they get to 25, they're no longer in that list and they become one of the more established brands. American retro, great fun, great price, and really very transportable to many other locations. And finally, the brands in the ones to watch represent a number of different sectors, and I won't go into all the detail here, but Italian food is always popular in the UK, and Italian isn't only pizza, and it's not only pasta, it's loads of other things. American inspired food, so I've mentioned Ed's, Smith & Wesson again. This is not American brands coming into the UK, it's America inspiring food in the developed by the UK market. Healthy food, Bill's and Leon, two good examples. French bistros, this is sort of a slightly more upmarket move. Thai food is the latest iteration of Far Eastern food. It started off with Chinese food, so in the undifferentiated Chinese food, has moved through various different cuisines in the Far East, and Thai food is the one that is getting the attention right now. The Chinese buffet idea is something that is beginning to take off. This is all you can eat for £10, for $15. You enter, there is a choice of cuisine. It may be primarily Chinese, but there is also global cuisine from different stations around. All you can eat for a given price. A great value proposition, and really fun for people who participate. Gourmet burgers, Brazilian food is coming through, pub restaurants are making their way, and Indian food. We've never had a large Indian restaurant chain in the UK, but maybe the time has come. So that's really it. Ones to watch, representing many different aspects of the dining market in the UK, great investment opportunities and great ideas for other operators around the world. That's it. Ones to watch. Thank you very much.
In terms of trends, what's happening in the UK, I suppose a question for you is how does the UK market, how does the London market differ to the Dubai market? What are you seeing? Both seem to be hotbeds of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, having been in Dubai now since yesterday morning, I'm a real expert in this market. But there are some real, there are hotbeds, but there are some big differences. And I think that the thing that strikes me is around this area of innovation. The real innovation, the new ideas, are very obvious in London. I find that the market here in Dubai is more concerned with what has worked and therefore will work here as well. And that's probably a developmental stage, because once you get over the stage of taking ideas from other countries, like we did in the UK, taking McDonald's and TGI Fridays, and then using that as a springboard to come up with more innovation, and I suspect that will happen.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. Anybody have a burning question? Over here, can we get a mic over to this table?
Hi, Peter. You mentioned about Indian chains. It's always very interesting. I was looking at the UK recently. Every little village has got a little Indian takeaway. Indian food, you know, tikka masala, most popular British dish, apparently now we're told. And yet no group that's got more than 4 or 5 around. And yet there's Michelin star Indians in London, there's other things. Can you hypothesize why that would be?
Yes.
Or talk about these other 2 groups you've spotted and said, you know, why you think they may succeed?
Well, the Indian food market in the UK is very much a family business. It means that prices have been kept low. The family have clubbed together when times have been tough. They've kept margins very tight. That makes it quite difficult for developing a brand which will require external investment, because you can't say to the external investors, terribly sorry, we can't pay you your dividend this month. They're not going to be very happy. So I think it's very much about the structure of the ownership of Indian restaurants. A number of well-established groups have tried to launch Indian restaurant chains and have found that the finances just don't stack up. They have to charge sort of £25 a head as opposed to £10 a head in order to make them work. So that's, in a nutshell, why I think it's where we are.
It's interesting. I used to work for a restaurant group years ago, and I remember looking at the Indian market, and as you said, it was one of the portfolio groups. So I'm sure some of those have got sick of opening Italian pizza restaurants and thought more about what it takes, and they have the wherewithal and the money to do it.
The restaurant group, when it was City Centre Restaurants, opened Raja in Shepherd's Bush as an Indian concept, and they had to close it because the numbers didn't stack up. That's all I can say.
What happened actually with Roger Mama's was that somebody got murdered on the front door, and it became a police scene, and no one could come to the restaurant for the first month. I think that's what happened.
Okay. Well, if you want to run a successful Indian restaurant chain, make sure nobody gets murdered by your front door.
Excellent. Peter, we're running about 30 minutes late, which is not like us. So, I mean, not that you overran, but I think we better end this session. And so if everybody would join me in thanking Peter Backman. You know, we're usually pretty good on our timing, but I can just see 0 in red here. So we are running a bit late, but I don't think that matters because we've got this last session and we can run on a bit before reception at 6 o'clock. And it is the concept showcase. So we're going to break this session down into 3 main showcases of 30 minutes each: franchises, bars, and restaurants, as I understand it. The format will be 15-minute presentation and then 15-minute question on each of the sessions. And to moderate this session is Duncan Fraser-Smith, Managing Director of the Cutting Edge Agency. Duncan? Now, Duncan, as I understand it, you're all about advising clients on concepts and what type of restaurants to put in their space that they have available, whether it be in hotels or outside.
Correct, yeah, Jonathan. It's actually a good mix of both. It's kind of looking at it from the side of the operator and the investor and going, what space do you have? What locations do you have available? And you know, let's look at what you've got available first. And then talking to the brand representatives, to the chefs, to the restaurateurs as they are in town, and obviously internationally, and going, right, we've got this location in this space. Your concept is a perfect fit. How do we bring everyone together to make that work? Which is kind of what GRIF is all about.
Okay, great. Well, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. A couple of minor amendments to what Jonathan just stated. We're going to change the structure a little bit. I might stand out here, actually. Change the structure a little bit and divide it into 2 sections. Section number 1 will be focusing on bars and the bar element, and some amazing bar concepts, international bar concepts, that are looking to bring and expand their presence and portfolio here in this region. And then we'll look at the restaurant element. We've got some amazing restaurants, once again, international restaurant operations, as well as homegrown restaurant operations that are looking to expand outward of the region and are looking for investor partners to bring that along. So what I might do to start with is with the bar element, I might invite up to the stage, if I can, Gillian McLean. Now, Gillian McLean is the Managing Director of Drake & Morgan, UK. And as well, I'd like to also invite to the stage Mr. Ashley Sutton. Now, Ashley Sutton is the creative and interior conceptualist for Iron Fairies and Maggie Chew. Ashley, come on up. Take a seat over there. Excellent. So what we will do to start with is we're going to allow both of these fantastic individuals to give you about a 5-minute presentation on their concept and their brand and what it is that they are looking to bring into the marketplace. At the end of that, we'll have a bit of a Q&A session. I'll ask them some questions. I will then open it up to the floor if you have any particular questions on the brands that these people are representing, and then we'll move on to the next presentation from there. So I might start with Gillian, if you'd like to come up. That is your clicker.
Just like that.
Just left to right. You should see it down here.
Great. Well, good afternoon. Thanks that I'm here this afternoon. I'm Gillian McLean, the Managing Director of Drake & Morgan. We're a privately owned bar and restaurant company in London. We have 7 bars and restaurants currently and a further 10 concepts that we're opening over the next couple of years. Basically, Drake & Morgan was born a bit out of frustration, really, in that we set up the company in 2008. We've been traveling to different parts of the world, looking at people doing things well. This is a refinery, our first site in Bankside, where we went to New York and looked at some fantastic operators there. And we thought that the market had kind of fallen behind in terms of in central London. So we talked to developers and to customers about what they'd like next. And actually, every time we've opened a new concept, we've traveled to different parts of the East, West Coast of America, to Asia, also to Istanbul and Beirut, looking at what's new and what's next and who does things well. We trade for 4 occasions, for breakfast, brunch, lunch, for private parties and events. And we're basically in the base of the commercial district, Canary Wharf, the city, and also at Bankside by the Tate Modern. And we've opened some really beautiful concepts. Our philosophy has very much been based on females. Over 40% of our business is pre-booked online. And actually I really thought the philosophy of our business when we started was about collaboration with our customers, relevance and fun and being differentiated really. So you can see some of our lovely food and drinks and such like that we do. We do all our innovation with our customers actually. We've got a group of customers called Borough Babies who do all our tastings. The mums, dads taste our menus, our oils. We operate scratch cooking. We buy all our products from Borough Market. We do market tours. And our business is predominantly bar and restaurant. So we focus really much on storytelling in terms of creating a great experience. So we do anything from cookery classes to mixology classes. We have delis and flower shops as well as our bar and restaurant. And the whole point of the company was really based on the customer experience, what people want next, and actually what they didn't realize they wanted as well. I was really influenced by reading a great book called Inside Our Pretty Little Head, which is basically talks about the psychology of women, because it's pretty much a female-friendly led business, and that women are responsible in the UK for about 80% of influencing the purchasing decisions. So really thinking about what women want and how they're influencing things and giving them great bars and restaurants, because women in particular like to pre-book. We've got a database of a couple of 100,000 customers now, of which 70% of it's female, women booking regularly with us 2-3 times a week, and actually coming for lunch, coffee. We have free Wi-Fi throughout, and actually it's a casual, accessible space, as well as people coming for drinks and food as well. So say we've travelled and gone to different parts of the world, seeing people doing things well. My sister lives in California, so we've had the great joy of being able to go a lot to San Francisco and meet a lot of our winemakers in Sonoma as well, and actually be inspired by some of the people doing things brilliantly. And what do we see there that we've kind of brought back to London? Increasingly in London, people want connection. They're living in small flats, small places. People aren't cooking, they're eating out a few nights a week. And actually, they want to come to places where they have this great connection with people and can have some fun. So we do large spaces. Some of our restaurants and bars are accommodating up to 1,500 people, but they're great spaces that are great fun, with mixology happening in the evening, lots of classes, flambe happening at table, creating theatre and fun, amuse-bouche classes, ceviche classes happening, giving people what they want, and actually sometimes giving people what they didn't realise they wanted as well. We just opened our 7th concept 3 weeks ago, The Fable, in Farringdon in London, which is a beautiful space for just about over 1,000 customers. And we've been really busy in our first few weeks. And Amazon is our tenant there, acts as our developer. And we are also doing pop-ups in their cinema rooms and such like as well. So what we're seeing in London is not only people are coming to the base of buildings and commercial areas, but also they're wanting that experience in their buildings as well. We pretty much see that people want to really customize their experiences now. We're in Heron Tower, the Drift at Heron Tower, which is a beautiful 37-storey block in the city in Bishopsgate. And actually, we're probably doing between 20 to 30 pop-ups a week throughout the different floors for trading floors, for all sorts of different people that are in those buildings that want to have fun, post meetings with corporates and such like. And actually, not everybody wants to hang out with their colleagues after work. What they want to do is create experiences and have classes and do different things, really. So we see London, particularly the commercial districts, really, really changing. People want to have more fun, they've got less time, they want great food, they want great drinks, but most of all, they want to be welcomed. And the key thing for us in Drake & Morgan really is about warmth and hospitality and having fun really with our teams. So if you're in London, come and see us. And it's wonderful to be in Dubai because it's been quite inspiring here. Our company is all about innovation and traveling really, so it's a great experience to be here. So that's just a little bit of Drake & Morgan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie. Excellent, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Clicker. Clicker.
Fantastic concept. Wow, amazing. And we'll get some questions going in a second, but I think what I'll do now is I'll invite up onto the stage Ashley Sutton to talk to you a little bit about what he's been doing in Bangkok. Ashley, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Ash, and I'm a conceptual designer. I suppose I've been fortunate to come up with probably a dozen concepts that have been successful, and I think mainly because I've got a building background, so I always like to keep thinking and keep dreaming, so I'm lucky enough to be able to know how to build those dreams. So I guess that's how I've had my success. I don't consider myself an expert in F&B, only about 6 years in the industry, and that was solely by accident. It all started with a business called the Iron Fairies, and I'll see if I can get a slide of that. Okay, this one here. It started off about 15 years ago. I wrote some children's books, very dark and depressing children's books about some naughty miners underground making these little steel fairies. I used to work underground in a mine, so it was a very boring job and very dark, and there was a lot of characters down there with a lot of personalities. So I originally did this workshop in Bangkok, actually in Perth, and then moved it to New York. And they were all solely retail outlets. I designed it just like the mine, selling little fairies and making them as well. So when I moved to Bangkok, I did the same thing, and being a foreigner, and I had Thai staff. They couldn't even read English and read my books, so I had to build a workshop for them to be able to feel the inspiration of Iron Fairies. So I built this workshop just like the book, so my staff would feel inspired. And it was only like a month later I flew back from America, back to Bangkok, and there were people, customers in this workshop watching my staff make these fairies. And they used to ask me, can I get a drink? Do you sell any drinks? And I said, okay. So I used to run to 7-Eleven and buy a bottle of wine and come back and sell the bottle of wine to them. And a month later, they wanted food, so I had to put a kitchen in out the back, and before you knew it, I had a big, long line. So that's how I became into F&B. So I believe first and foremost is you must have a soul, a backbone to anything. Not make your space too big. It's very hard to fill a big space like this, and unless you fill it full of so much design, so people are not too bored, and they can always have something to look at. So I like to keep things small and not too big, and come up with a backbone to every concept. It's got to have a great backbone, and people can tell I can anyway. I'm no good at computers. I do everything hand-drawn, and I can tell, like, a lot of investors ask me, can I give them 3D drawings and what have you, and I just do my old 2D sketches, and it's very hard for them to understand the concept. But I can tell, like, a design company which does a standard 3D design and presents it, and then they just give it to the builder to build. So it's very, very plain and plastically. It doesn't have any heart to it. So I like to build my concepts based on every detail of my thoughts, and also they have to be practical and make money. So I'll show you another concept I did. This is Mr. Jones. It's a little crazy little dessert shop I made, and I didn't like my teachers at school, and my mum was always like, you can't eat this, can't eat that. So I wanted to do a crazy dessert shop for kids to eat what they want, and put every chocolate and lolly on steroids. So, so that's what I did with that, and I made it really fun for kids. It's got like a donation charity there with teddy bears. This is in one of the worst hotels in the world, Novotel Hotel in Bangkok, worst location. Everyone said I would fail. It's in a basement. It was 350 square meters, so it's pretty big for me. So I divided it into two sections, one restaurant, which I subleased, and the other section, I built this perimeter of rooms. You can see the rooms in blue, just to make it feel not too big. So when a group of 10 people would come in, they could feel like they're still part of the party, and you can also fit about 300 people in it as well, so it makes a bit of money. This is my latest concept. It's Bangkok Betty. It's I fused restaurant with bar. I can't stand fine dining. I just want to make eating fun now and incorporate bar into the restaurant. That's the bar there. There's no actual bottles on the back. I don't really like to show bottles anymore on a bar. I like to keep it pretty clean lines. And being famous for industrial design, I'm really bored with industrial design now. So halfway through this project, this is an old World War II bomb-making factory. I decided to get all the bombs. I hand-made them all in steel and decided to chrome dip them all. So it made a clean feel to the industrial type of feel. So, and that's it. It's 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well done, mate. Take a seat. Fantastic. Two, well, more than two, but some really interesting thoughts and interesting design concepts there, guys. And I thought what I might do just to kind of keep the conversation moving was, I guess, Gillian, for you, when you look, you started, it was 2008.
Yes, we did, yeah.
And you're now, how many stores do you have open now in the UK?
We've got 7 now.
You've got 7 stores open in the UK. So a certain person in the audience is not going to want me to use the silver bullet term, so I won't. What do you consider is the DNA to success for these operations, and how do you think they would work if they came to this region?
I think in London, the kind of DNA for us is about innovating, being really, really interested in what our customer would like, not now, but just also next. Our locations, clearly, because we're at the base of kind of the new London landscape and beautiful new developments at Canary Wharf, Bankside, and various places, so location's key. And also keeping our offer relevant and differentiated, I think is really important for us as well. So in London, we've got a very good formula, and our next concepts are beautiful as well. Really, I think individuality is really important as well. People feeling that they're discovering something, because effectively we're an umbrella brand. I don't know enough about Dubai because I only got here on Saturday, so I could hardly say. And there's so many inspiring things here. I think clearly our model might be a bit different in terms of less drinks, maybe more food and such like. But I definitely think even some of the things that I've seen in Dubai, I think that Drake & Morgan would be lovely here. Very female-friendly led business, but one never knows, yeah.
Female-friendly led business.
Yeah.
Ashley, yours obviously, does that cater to that market in Bangkok? And do you think your concepts, Iron Fairies, Maggie Choo's, in this Dubai market, would that be a female-friendly driven venue?
Yeah, I mean, sex sells, right? It's got to be sexy.
Agree.
Yeah, and sure. But people ask me all around the world, like, I want to do Maggie Choo's in England, or I want to do Maggie Choo's in New York, or Shanghai, or Iron Fairies, and I say, well sure, we can incorporate that same feeling of that romantic romance and history, which Maggie Choo's has, but I wouldn't call it Maggie Choo's. Maggie Choo's is based on an old Shanghai mama-son who escaped the war and found an old East India Company trading post. So in Bangkok, which is factual. So if I was to do it in Dubai, I would have to study the romance of Middle Eastern fishermen or Middle Eastern traders. Do you know what I mean? To
Absolutely.
create that same feeling. That's how it would work in Dubai. I don't believe you can copy the exact concept and move it to another country.
I mean, you were mentioning before about the fact that every one of your operations has a soul, sort of a soul and a backbone behind it. And Dubai obviously is a fairly new market.
Yeah, but it's got so much history and natural materials, and there's so much in every country. There's so many natural things you can pick up and incorporate. I think you can capture the local crowd then a lot better than tourists as well. So that's what I would do, and it's more passionate as a designer to do that, to be able to learn about the history of the country.
Absolutely. Gillian, size-wise, I mean, are these big restaurants, or are they intimate? Is there a bars?
They're quite big spaces, but they're broken up beautifully because our design's quite important, that people can feel We've got speakeasies in a couple of hours as well, an art gallery in one. So it's actually about breaking the space up beautifully so that people feel comfortable. Because I agree with you, you can't just have a big landscape. It's got to be something that's comfortable. And I think the other thing is atmosphere is so important, as well as it feeling quite sexy and music and temperature and actually the warmth in people as well. It's got to feel fun, because that's kind of what we're selling, aren't we? Great experiences and people having fun.
Very true. Ashley, if you were to partner with someone or look for an investor, what are some of the key attributes you would look for someone that wanted to bring basically your brand into this market?
Someone with an open mind who can let me do what I want. And like, you know what I mean? Come on, I mean, that's how I do the best I can.
Yeah.
I can't have someone on my shoulder like, don't like that. And I can feel it. When I walk into a location, like investors, they say, here's the space, Ash. I want to do this. But every space has its own personality already. From the time I walked up the escalators coming here and the window there, and you can feel what goes there. It could be not what the owner wants, but it's my experience. This is how you're going to make money by doing this here. So I don't know.
Gillian, from your perspective, what do you look for?
I think chemistry, in terms of actually people understanding the proposition, in terms of, I agree with you completely about understanding the nuances of the local market as well, and actually how you make that fun and such like. So I think the chemistry, clearly financial model needs to work as well, and also the people that you work with have to be quite fun as well. Hospitality is, I think it was one of Jason's colleagues was saying earlier about actually people think in the bar and restaurant business, sometimes it's an easy business, but it's exceptionally hard work, and it's a bit of a vocation.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. So you've got to work with good people, because otherwise you're spending a lot of time with them as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very true. So expansion plans, obviously, you're looking in particular markets around the world at the moment for growth. Gillian, where, obviously Dubai or the UAE is one of those. Where else are you looking?
To be honest, here first, actually.
Here first?
Yeah, I think the minute you step off the plane from London and get here, when I got here on Saturday, you feel a great positivity and an energy and a great vibrance here. And Drake & Morgan's all about going where the market's at, and London is very much, it's a fantastic market currently, and it seems an amazing market here. I don't know enough about it yet, and part of coming here, this great conference really is just the start of the exploration of that.
Fantastic. Ashley?
Yep.
Same thing?
What was the question?
Growth, expansion.
I just want to design. I just want to build dreams. It doesn't matter where. I just need someone who's got an open mind. And Dubai is so huge in the way of 5,400 restaurants, right, on TripAdvisor. It's just huge competition here. And I think if you're going to do well here, keep it small, keep it smart, and location, it's okay, but it's all word of mouth, and I would like to capture locals first, and the tourists will come. But it's word of mouth, and no matter how much money you spend on advertising of a restaurant, or you got this famous chef, the truth is when they walk through the doors, it doesn't matter what else, but they're going to say, "Wow, this is great." You know what I mean? And they're going to be Instagramming, and that's it. So the truth is, in the finished product, doesn't matter who you've got. So.
Fantastic. What we might do is we might bring our other panellists up here now so that the spotlight doesn't just stay on the two of you.
Yeah, great.
And have a look at some restaurant concepts that are coming into the market as well. So what I will do is I will invite up to the stage, let me make sure I get this order right, Jason Myers. Jason Myers is the General Manager, Group Food and Beverage for Jumeirah R&B. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Myers. Come and take a seat over here, mate. I'll also invite up Ozio Pinasco. Ozio, we've already met Ozio before on a panel previously, but let's give him a round of applause anyway.
Thank you.
Rohit Sachdev, my apologies, Rohit. Rohit is the Managing Director of Soho Hospitality. And finally, welcome, Rohit. Nice to see you. Come and take a seat down the end here. And finally, I'd like to welcome up Mr. Marcus Thesleff. Marcus Thesleff is the founder of Whistle Group here in Dubai. Welcome. Excellent. I think to get us started and to kick us off, I might go, Jason, if you would like to give us a bit of an introductory presentation to what it is that you're bringing forward today.
Only because you asked me so nicely, Duncan. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. So, I could have talked to you about many brands today, but I'm going to talk to you about Noodle House, which is one of our homegrown brands that was developed here. I think, let's move that forward. There we go. So I think there are many spectacular and innovative restaurants in Dubai. I think among them, the Noodle House is well established. There was queues outside Noodle House when it opened its door on the 25th of February 2002. 12 years on, with 1 million customers passing through its doors every day, it's still one of Dubai's most popular places to meet and eat at both lunchtime and the evening. In Dubai, there are currently 7 outlets. Worldwide, there are 23 Noodle Houses, open with 5 under construction today, spanning 10 countries, a homegrown brand I think we're really proud of. We've been growing for expansion. I think we got our inspiration to create the Noodle House from the crowded streets of Southeast Asia, cities such as Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Jakarta. In these cities, everywhere you look, vendors sell the most amazing aromatic choice of foods. It is also precisely the type of food that is served in Noodle House today. Diners feel at ease in the cheery communal atmospheric space, and you order on an order pad even today. Hand it to your server. While food is served quickly, diners are often surprised just how soon the meal arrives. The surroundings are informal yet stylish. By weaving together all the elements of the inspiration, the Noodle House has neatly become an excellent franchise brand for customers to enjoy worldwide. People are drawn to the vibrant atmosphere of the Noodle House. It is a restaurant where chefs whip up authentic dishes within minutes on 2-handed woks over traditional flames. The unique combination of wholesale MSG-free food, which has become more important today, and an energetic ambience is what brings our guests back time and time again. The Noodle House brand has a clear identity and promise and was voted Super Brand for the last 3 consecutive years. We are delighted to share our 23rd outlet, which recently opened in Moscow, which demonstrates how far the brand has come in this time. Why should people invest in the Noodle House? It is a sound investment with a proven business model. It has longevity proven over 12 years in 10 different countries, has wide appeal, strong home delivery model, a partner that invests in the brand, and it is backed by the Resource and Brand Association of the Jumeirah Group. I think how we feel about it is the great concepts have a great story. Great stories have inspiration. At the Noodle House, we're inspired by our travels where we see, eat, and experience these things, which is based on this experience that we at Jumeirah create great concepts. The Noodle House is one of such concepts that we're proud of and looking for partners to share this vision. Could you be the next partner? Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Well done. Thank you, Jason. That's fantastic. I'll invite up now, get my order right again, Zio Pinasco. Thank you very much to talk to us a little bit about our Curio restaurants. Thank you so much.
Well, I had the opportunity to explain to you about Peruvian food before, and I wanted to get a little bit more into a couple of the concepts that we are moving around the world. One of them is La Mar. First, I want to go back a step, I'm sorry. We've been talking about authenticity and how important it is for the client at the restaurant. And one of the things that we always say, and that I feel is absolutely true, is that Peruvian cuisine is absolutely authentic. We haven't invented Peruvian cuisine. We're relying on a history of 500 years, and we're packaging it into a complete experience that we can take to the world. And this is something that every consumer at our restaurants perceives immediately. So in cevicherias, and I don't know if you have there we are. Well, Gaston already talked about him, and besides being a promoter of Peruvian and the ambassador of Peruvian food in the world, we as a company also have a philosophy by which we believe gastronomy in our country is ways to social change, and that is already happening. We in Peru promote sustainable farming and fishing, and sometimes deal directly with the fishermen and farmers, promoting the products for export with quinoa and fish and potatoes, tomatoes that are many poor people in our country. And that has helped create a more honest approach to the export of our gastronomy. So going to La Mar. In La Mar, you have the essence of a cevicheria, which is fun, casual, authentic, and healthy. And you take it and we've packaged it into an international fashion that makes it available and understandable by everybody. We're currently in 7 cities, including Lima, Santiago, Sao Paulo, San Francisco, Miami soon, Buenos Aires soon. And everywhere we go, it's been a big, big success. We accompany the La Mar experience with a bar component that we also feel is very important. The national drink of Peru is a pisco, which is best described as a grape brandy. And with pisco, we have many fun, different cocktails that you can make out of different fruits, or the traditional pisco sour, which is the typical Peruvian drink. Pisco sour or chilcano, which is the easy way you do it with ginger ale. With La Mar, we created the ceviche bar concept, which can be taken out. You can have smaller venues based on the ceviche bar as well, or you can have a full restaurant experience with a bar incorporated into a full cevicheria idea. This is our ceviche bar in Lima currently, where we've created a new model of exhibit of the produce. Then we have Tanta. Tanta is approachable, fun, familiar. This is the restaurant in Chicago. It also has a small ceviche bar because we feel ceviche is a strong component of our gastronomy, but it incorporates other aspects of our Peruvian experience, such as the chicken barbecue, beef, lomo saltado, which is a beef saute inspired by Chinese influence in Peru, and other produce that make it a more inviting global experience of the Peruvian food. That's basically it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll go this way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll invite up Rohit Sachdev now to come and have a chat to us. Rohit is a Managing Director of Soho Hospitality. Thank you very much, Rohit.
Hi, my name is Rohit Sachdev. I'm the Managing Director of Soho Hospitality. We are an interior design, hotel development, and restaurant owner based out of Bangkok, Thailand. In 2003, as a twice-failed technologist with no hotel or restaurant or interior design experience, based on pure passion alone, I started an interior design company with an American gentleman. In the course of the next 6 years, we designed almost 5,000 hotel rooms and restaurants across the globe. In 2006, we opened our first hotel based in Bangkok, and which has been fairly successful. And in 2011, I embarked on our first restaurant, which ended up being our next big thing. This is a story of how we came up with the concept and how we did to bring this restaurant to its fruition. Above 11 is a 3-level, multi-tiered rooftop bar and restaurant based in Bangkok, Thailand. It is the first Peruvian restaurant in Southeast Asia. As you've been hearing all throughout the afternoon, and I guess I don't have to speak much about the cuisine, it's speaking for itself. It's been a real pleasure for us to bring an amazing cuisine to Thailand, and it's been exceptionally received. When we embarked on creating Above 11, being that it was a rooftop experience, one of the things we looked at was how should we look at address the comp set. So we looked at other rooftop bars that existed in Bangkok, some of them doing fairly well, some of them you may be aware of as well. And one of the things we found that they were primarily dealing with the upper income segment, They were at high price points, and they were fairly pretentious and offering offering fine dining as opposed to fun dining. So from that perspective, we saw an opportunity to create a rooftop bar that would be more about fun, entertainment, food that fosters socializing. And then the second thing we looked at was consumer behavior. And since we're a company that follows a lot about trends that are happening in consumer behavior, we thought, why don't we create a rooftop bar by looking at consumer behavior and how consumer behavior has changed over the last 4 to 5 years. And what really amazed us was an understanding of a new breed of urban, upper middle class consumers who were design conscious, had disposable income, good taste, well-traveled, and looking for a place that they could call theirs. So we decided to embark on creating this rooftop bar. But one of the things we said is, how are we going to connect to these people? So upon doing additional research, we found out that Thai people are some of the largest social media users in Asia and perhaps in the world. And so we said, let's create a product that has emotional connectivity by creating different facets of our concept where it'll connect with our customers, and then we'll tie in social media to that. And it's been, we experimented, and it all worked very, very successfully. And I'd like to show you how we came about with the concept. I've got 1 minute to go. What we said is we wanted to make a really strong concept, so we said, what can we do that's different from the other places? And we said, okay, it's going to be inspired by Central Park. We're going to put a park on the roof because Bangkok has a lack of green spaces. And then we said, okay, if there's a park, the park has to have trees. If it's got to have some shade from the sun, and it's going to have clouds. And this is what the space. We have 5 sculptural trees. Each of these trees change lights exactly the day when the seasons change. So we change the lights on the trees only 4 times a year in order to give it some life. This is another image. If you see there, we have a perforated metal sheet in the shape of clouds, so even if you're not under the sky, you're still underneath the clouds. And in order to create emotional connectivity, this is another mezzanine area on the 2nd floor. And in order to create what we call emotional connectivity, this is, oh wait, where's the other? Oh, wait. Oh, that image is missing. We took our best view in the restaurant and connected to, made it the men's urinal. And we have women trying to come in to get a look at the restaurant. And lastly, we have Peruvian food. It's a Peruvian-Japanese restaurant. We decided on Peruvian-Japanese because we wanted to make sure that bringing a new cuisine in the region, we wanted to make sure that there was some comfort food that the audience would understand. But we also have other dishes besides the ceviche. If you see, that's a Creole, it's called seco cordero, which is a lamb shank, 3-hour cooked lamb shank. That's the arroz con mariscos. It's like a paella, which is from the Spanish influence. And on the right over here is the tiradito, which is the Japanese influence, where they give the sashimi cut of the fish with the Peruvian ingredients. Thank you very much. It would be a pleasure to speak to you and learn to talk more about bringing this concept to the Middle East.
Thank you very much, Rohit. That's great. Panelists, and then obviously some questions which I'm sure are being built up by the floor. I'll introduce Marcus Thesleff, the founder of Whistle. There you go, buddy.
Hi, I'll try to keep it a little bit brief. I know I'm the last person, so I'm sure you want to get out of here. But let me start by saying a little bit about our company. We're called Whistle. We were actually set up here in Dubai between me and my business partner. And we're a little bit different. We create brands in Dubai, and then we try to take them elsewhere. At the moment, we've got four concepts here open. Most recently, we opened Claw, which is in Suqa Bahar, barbecue, crab shack, and grill, which are doing pretty fantastic, about 650 covers a day. We have a beach club on the Palm called Riva. We have a gastro-organic cafe called Sophie's, which we're just franchising out, and Oku, which I'm going to discuss with you today. But on top of that, tomorrow we're opening a new rooftop bar here in Dubai. And next week, we have another place opening up. So it's pretty busy for us. But to give you just a little bit of brief background about the company, we are set up a little bit differently. Everything we do is about our staff, and that's our biggest stakeholder. And we believe if we start by taking care of our staff, then they'll take care of the customers, and they'll take care of the guests and the bottom line at the end of the day, which is pretty similar to what they do in New York, but in Dubai that's sort of been missed for a while. And the other thing we do a bit differently is everybody thinks we're just about the food and the service, and as everybody's spoken about today, it's all about the experience. But we also approach the business a little bit differently. We look at it as a real estate play, and that's about, we have a certain amount of seats that we have to fill per night, and we look to rent out those seats. And that's kind of our approach to business. And just to tell you a little bit about Oku now, which is why I guess we were invited here. I'll try to get through this one quickly. There's only a couple of slides. So Oku is a Japanese restaurant created here, and breaking the mold of standard. We've been open 5 years here in Dubai, and normally the mold in Dubai is find a great brand somewhere in the world and bring it over here, and it tends to do really, really well. And there's some fantastic examples. We were crazy enough to look at it from the other way around and start here and taking it elsewhere, and we're now in the process of opening in London, Saudi, and a couple of other markets. But essentially, as I mentioned, we're a modern Japanese restaurant. You've heard about all the different types of restaurants. Well, to add another one to the mix, we're not just fine dining, we're casual fine dining. So just to confuse things a little bit more, but we keep the quality at fine dining levels, but we try to make the experience more bistro-like. That's where we are. So what makes us successful? Well, first of all, our food makes us successful. Our people make us more successful, but at the end of the day, our customer is the reason why we're still in business. So we look at everything from A to Z. So it's about the design, about the food, about the service. I know Ashley mentioned earlier about a space. You know, people try to squeeze a square box into a round hole. And for us, every space has natural energy. And you got to take that space and you got to create something from it. And that's what we did with Oku, which is a pretty hard location, over 3 floors. So we managed to do that in a hotel on Sheikh Zayed Road that isn't part of any of the majors. And since doing so, I think we've done a pretty decent job over 5 years. We've won over 40 awards, beating some of the biggest names in the industry. And that's all thanks to the people working there. As I mentioned, we take an approach from design through the food, through the service, and it's a complete experience. And of course, the food is pretty decent. Why get involved in something like Oku? Well, first of all, it's very, very profitable. Above and beyond that, Japanese food appeals to everybody. It's healthy, but on top of that, it hits different types of, not of cuisine, but different types of cooking methodology. So everybody's catered for, and that seems to work pretty well for us. As a small restaurant with 6,000 square feet, we're driving 10 to 12,000 customers through the doors a month, which isn't bad. And we've won a couple of little awards. So we seem to be doing good after 5 years. And the reason for that, again, as I come back to, and I kept saying it at the beginning, and I keep saying it now, it's all about the people working there. And that's really what makes us different from anybody else in the industry. After 5 years, we're still pretty much considered one of the better restaurants in town, and hopefully we'll be able to keep doing that. And as we grow the concept to different markets, which, as I mentioned, is happening already now, we look to do that even further. And that's kind of it. Thank you very much.
Well done, mate. Oh, cheers. Terrific. Very interesting concepts. I think you'll see that we've got some homegrown concepts that are looking to expand, and we've got some international concepts that are looking to come in to the Dubai market. So Jason's been sitting there long enough, but not having to chat for a while, so I might fire the first question back to you. Noodle House has been around, as you said, since 2002. Through your growth, have there been some learnings that you've learnt which will steer the decision as to who you would partner with going forward? And what are some of those key criteria in order to grow the Noodle House brand globally?
I'm just so relieved you didn't ask me the silver bullet question. I was ready this time. I've been practicing it all day. But anyway, in answer to your question, yeah, of course, you know, as a brand evolves over 12 years, you learn lots of things, particularly as you meet new partners. Some partners have been with us for a long time. Some partners go, and you change and you develop, and agreements change, and how you support these people change, and how your success criteria changes, where you're going to take the brand, what you're going to do with it. So yeah, massive amount of learning. We've put a lot of that energy into the last couple of years in how we will take that and then develop it as we want to grow the brand, because we see big expansion opens in the UK next month. So excited about that, and a lot of the new things that we've learned you'll probably see in that site.
Fantastic. Ziri, La Mer and Tanta, what do you think, where do you think they would position themselves in the Dubai market if they were to come over here?
I think, well, I don't know the market very well because this is my first time here and I arrived last night. My feeling is La Mar would work very well in, what we do is, I would like to understand the market better before I answer that question, because what we've done throughout the 12 years in which we started the international expansion is every market we go into, we try to understand better before deciding what brand to go with. In the case, for example, of Tanta and La Mar, we chose Tanta for Chicago because it's a more meat-based or poultry offering, and we felt that was a better fit for that market. Whereas La Mar we have in Miami on the water and San Francisco on the water as well. It made more sense. From what I've read and understand of the Dubai market, the fish here is good. You can get very good produce. I would say La Mar would be a very good fit. And maybe in what they call the boulevard, from what I'm hearing, you could probably have a Tanta working well as well.
Okay, excellent.
It's more or less,
Fantastic. Rohit, from your perspective, Above 11, once again, an amazing concept and in the heart of Bangkok. How would you see, obviously there are regionalised considerations that you have in a city like Dubai. We also have the weather, and I know Bangkok has quite extreme weathers as well, a lot of humidity. Do you approach, if we were to kind of partner with an investor over here to bring that concept, would it be Above 11 as is, or would it be a regionalised version, or not Above 11, as Ashley said, you do something completely different using the DNA of that concept?
Right. I think ideally we would want to continue to look for rooftop venues. In Bangkok, for example, people are always in air-conditioned rooms. We have a pretty large expatriate market. So with the 180 seats we have, we're almost packed on most nights, and the expats love being outside. Understandably, in Dubai, there's some other constraints that need to be considered. So perhaps you would have an inside-outside experience, so that during the hotter months of the year, we could accommodate clients during that period as well, because you don't want to alienate your customers because of some of those constraints. So ideally, we would like to continue to look for rooftop spaces. We've been very, very successful. We do about 10 to 12,000 customers on a monthly basis.
Fantastic.
We have 28,000 likes on Facebook. With 2,000 customers talking about us. I don't know what that means, but it looks really good. In December, 18 months into our business, we were breaking our daily records 3 times in a row. So the business is extremely sustainable. But the one thing we want to focus on, and a lot of people say Dubai wants to see and be seen. But I believe there is that breed of customers in Dubai who want an unpretentious, value-for-money-driven, good product, sexy, design-conscious, not something that looks cheap by any means. But I do believe that there's that market there, and I don't think it's tapped yet. And that's a market that we would like to continue to focus on.
Fantastic. Marcus, for you, obviously the expansion of Oku, being in part of the Middle East as we are currently, there are a limited amount of sites that we can go into, and obviously a lot of the people that are sitting here on the panel are just learning the Dubai market for the moment. What are some of the ways that you can partner with investors, whether it be hotel owners, standalone operators, for success in this market, bringing concepts in, and what are ways that you're looking to partner to expand Oku out into the future?
Well, Oku is one of the brands, but we've got experience with a few other brands, including a casual brand like you mentioned, which is Claw. So maybe this is a more general kind of conversation to have. When we came here and opened, pretty much, because we're in a licensed venue, meaning we've got alcohol, that whole side of the business was pretty much closed to independent operators like ourselves. Everything was run and operated and owned by hotels. And everything was pretty much full because of the nature that Dubai was Dubai back in 2007, 2008 when we were coming in. Where we went, they took a gamble, took a punt on us, and we came in and we leased the space, which is very unusual in Dubai at the time. Now it's pretty common. Back then, we already had a different type of approach to how we wanted to work in Dubai with our concepts. Dubai wasn't really ready for it, to be frank. The best we could get out of it was an independent lease deal within a hotel, which we accepted. The reality is that model, it works in parts of the world, but if you want to be at the cutting edge today is which some of our other brands, for example, Cielo the Rooftop that we're opening tomorrow night, that's a joint venture between us and an entity, a government entity. So what happens in these situations is, or where I believe the market needs to go, which you'll see in LA and Vegas and more developed markets, and especially in the US right now, is the landlord, which is actually your biggest partner long term, not necessarily the GM of a hotel here, which has a strong influence bringing you in, but then you've got to continue past when they get promoted. So your landlord's your biggest partner, and they're looking at it from an asset and revenue generating model. So if they have the property, they develop the property to the standard and specifications and designs that we want, and then we come in and operate that on a joint venture basis, and if it works, and hopefully it does, then we try to take that elsewhere. So you can go all the way from franchising your brand here, all the way now that we're seeing, which is what we're doing, and maybe a couple of others are doing it. There's not a lot of hospitality companies based out of here with their own brands, but it's nice to see that the evolution that you see in the UK or in the US that have gone on for sort of 30, 40, 50 years. I can only speak for myself, been here for 5 years, and it's gone from right in the beginning, in 5 years, to almost now developed market stage, in my opinion, from the F&B. So depending on how you want to approach it, there's all different options. For Oku, we have on Oku, it's a leased outlet that we do ourselves. We've been approached by a number of hotels as we open. For example, in Dubai, we're going to open an Oku Grill and an Oku Beach, okay? That's coming. And the cuisine, while Japanese is very different, like the grill is a steakhouse, the beach speaks for itself. And we've been approached so we've been approached for all kinds of things, from leasing all the way to hotels wanting to pay for the whole fit out anywhere we want it, just come in and put it in there, because at the end of the day, we drive traffic. So we've been lucky here. We're getting some of the offers we're getting internationally from, for example, Beirut was one of them, but maybe not the best place to open a restaurant right now, so we kind of put that on hold. But Beirut, for example, was a turnkey operation for us. When we actually went to Vegas, they offered us something pretty similar, but the location wasn't right for us. So we're growing the brand, but we'll look at each space and each deal separately, whatever's best.
For you. Gillian, for you, obviously, the 7 existing outlets that you have in the UK, when you look to expand to Dubai, what sort of arrangement would you be looking at with regards to ensuring, I guess, the consistency and quality of the product that you're putting forward?
Yeah, well, we'd need to work really closely with a partner, and exactly as we were chatting about before the session, understand the local models, do a lot of research, understand what customers want and what works best, and then trial something.
Yeah, very good. Jason, you with Noodle House going forward, do you have multiple ways of doing it, or is it purely franchise?
No, I think we're looking at a number of opportunities. I'm going to put my other hat on if that's all right. Thank you. I think the city's really exciting right now, and I think that since the launch of the 2020 and the announcement, I think a lot of the projects have opened up that, I'm talking in context of this panel and people out there who might be thinking about expanding. I think the F&B market in Dubai is going to take off in a big way. I think it's really exciting. I think there's 7 major development plans on the table being drawn up and built as we speak. So for these guys looking to bring brands in, the property developers are really excited about speaking to people like this about expansion. I think the other thing that's really interesting and we should consider is that the hotel businesses Obviously, I represent Jumeirah, but not just Jumeirah. The hotel business is coming out of being hotel-run operators. And I think we're going to see a big shift, not just in Dubai, but worldwide. And I think this is a really exciting time because you've got a potential hotel group who sat in the room today who could come out this year and probably announce that they're one of the biggest independent restaurant operators in the world. So that's quite exciting. And I think from Jumeirah's perspective, quite clearly, through our launch through R&B, we're looking at partnering with landlords and property and running our F&B as a standalone restaurant business. You know, there's no secret about that. We've come out in the press and said it quite clearly. And I think this is an exciting time for partnership. So, you know, the likes of Gillian and these guys, maybe not Ash because he sounds, he needs a complete thing. I'm joking. But these guys,
It's the British
yeah, just a complete remit. Just give me a space on that. Might be a step too far, but for us. But you know, for these guys, it's exciting. You know, is that we want to talk to them. You know, we want to hear what they want to say. So it's an interesting time. So I think there's lots going on in the city. I think innovation is on its way back, and I think we're going to see a lot of diversity.
Fantastic. I think given the panel that we've got here, and there's probably a few questions out on the floor, we might open it up to questions on the floor now. If anyone has questions. Who's running? There we go, I think.
I have a question for Ashley. My name is Phil Broad. I work for IHG. My question is, I wish you'd written a lot more books because I live in Bangkok, and I think Iron Ferries, if you want to go and have a look at a man's brain in a really successful concept, then you should go and look at Iron Ferries. And if we can find concept developers like your brain works, Ashley, I think the restaurant industry will be in a very different space. Because I admire all the concepts you created and I visit them all. And the same with Above 11. So there's 4 reasons why I live in Bangkok sitting on stage. And it is because I think the center of innovation is coming out of Asia. And you heard a bit from Stefan Breg earlier, and I think that we need to look wider than we do currently. We've always looked to the UK and to the Americas, as I always have, until I end up landing in Bangkok. And there's some really exciting things going on in the world, and this forum is the perfect place to do that. So just congratulations to those 2 guys who are running great concepts. I think it's really worth you going to have a look, because the slides really don't do justice to the conceptualization of Above 11. And the men's restrooms are fantastic, and it's a great view. And Iron Ferries, again, and Maggie Chew's are just fantastic concepts. So that's all I want to say.
Cool.
Good here. I had a question regarding the concept. I believe they're all great, and concepts are great. It's an investment forum, and we didn't really speak about the investment and about the return on investment that the investors are at the end looking for. So maybe the question is to the Jumeirah, to the Noodle House, or to other concepts, because you have this casual fine dining or more this Noodle House one. How much do I need to invest for a Noodle House, and what is the return on investment that an investor could get?
Oh, great question. You know, we come out and in our pack, and from an investment point of view, you know, we'll say that you need to invest X per square, per square footage. We'll talk to you about the space. We've got a specific model that we think now works really well to, you know, for us, 2,800 square feet, you know, it'll cost you this, you'll invest this amount, this is what you'll pay up front. Everything's pretty clear, the investment, you know, the percentage of what we're looking at to share. And then obviously we look at each individual appraisal based on the expansion. So I think the models are pretty clear. Particularly, I think they've become more transparent because in the US market, you know, you have to post these now publicly. So if you look at any of the brands, you can see what they are, and as is pretty transparent. So if you're really interested in the Noodle House and the model, you know, please grab me after, and we can talk that through, no problem.
I will do.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have a question with regards to profitability. And when you look at the hotel operating companies, you look at a hotel investments, I'm just making a small parallel. Many contracts include performance clauses, and you know, operators have a responsibility to produce a certain level of GOP, etc. When you look at the restaurant industry, talking to lawyers and operators, this hasn't happened. I haven't seen a contract, a joint venture or a franchise that looks at a performance kind of test. Do you have any views on that? You know, should it be there? Can investors, especially people who are committing to develop 10, 15, 20, you know, master franchisees, could they be expecting these things?
Well, if you don't mind me, I'll answer that. Well, first of all, taking Dubai as an example, I've recently sat in on a meeting where I was told that there's a possibility they're going to change the real estate rules here. So first of all, when you talk about the landlord relationship, in Dubai, the most common formula is a price per square foot, and then there's a percentage of top line, normally 10%. There's a couple of people that will try to charge more than that, but the reality is anywhere in the world, you don't want to be paying more than 10% at most. Apparently, that's going to change within the year. So they're going to, legally, they're going to withdraw the 10% top line, I've heard, so there's only going to be a set rental rate. That aside, there's two big things that I should mention, and this kind of will apply to all of us. The way the hotels, certainly here in this region, do their bookkeeping and accounting, comparative to as an independent operator does, two different worlds, okay? It's to sit there and listen to some of their quote-unquote net profits that are being done by hotels. And I don't want to mention names, but I've sat in a couple of them where they're sort of sitting there with us, wanting to joint venture with us, saying they're, you know, dropping 40, sometimes 50% to the bottom line. And then they prove it through their restaurants, and you look at them, there's like 6 employees, according to them, but you're walking through and you can count 32 people on the floor alone. It's a bit of a tricky one, because if you go in and do it under the hotel model, where they spread the costs across different departments and they don't even charge rent to themselves, it's quite easy. If you start looking at or running it as an independent operation, it's quite easy again. But you've got to go one way or the other, and you've got to clarify which direction you're going in. And that's the clash that I would perceive happening. So take Oku as we grow. So with Oku, we get offered anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million up front as a territory fee. And then depending on how the country and how many units there can be as a partner, we will then get a percentage of top line. It's normally 8%, which is pretty much what our peers get. So it's pretty good. The higher end brands get a little bit more, so we're quite lucky like that. But you take something like Claw, it's a little bit less. And then we will appoint our GM. We'll appoint the head chef, and then we will then look also to run that. Okay, but then there's other models where, for example, the whole investment will be done by a hotel. We'll still get our 8%, but we'll take 40% of the bottom line. That becomes interesting, but especially so under the hotel model. So again, it's really horses for courses. And at the moment, the way it's run here, it depends if you're talking to an independent operator or you're looking to lease a place with an investor in a hotel, and are they going to run it as a standalone unit, or are they going to run it sort of the hotel way? And I think a lot of, especially when you start looking more at the high-end venues, I think it becomes quite problematic in hotels when they try to run the high-end and they think, well, I'm going to put a big-name chef in there, or I'm going to put a brand in there, and it's got to work. But the reality is, if you look around, there's not a lot of people that are making it work in hotels unless you leave it to the owner-operator as a restaurateur to run it, because it's a completely different business to selling rooms. And if it's done right, your F&B should give you 50% of your total revenue across the board. But you're talking to restaurateurs, so we approach it differently, because if the place doesn't make money, we're not going to make money. Whereas certain operators, as a hotelier, well, as long as the rooms are making money, I don't mind. I might take a hit there. So I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions in the room? Yes, this gentleman over here.
Hi. I just had a question for a point that Gillian raised a couple of times. One of the things that you were mentioning when you are developing your own concept is that you listen to the customer. You ask the customer. And that's easy to say, but from experience, that's a very hard thing to do. And sometimes the customer doesn't even know what they want. So I just wanted to ask, not just Gillian, it would be great to get your input, but also around the table, when you're developing a new brand, you're developing a new concept, how much do you rely on consumer input in that? So.
Shall I give a quick example? When our company started, our first site, the refinery at Bankside's, based below IPC Media, so there's 3,500 journalists based above, of which 70% are female, are writing all the kind of weekly and monthly titles for the UK. And I beg to differ. I think it's easy to ask customers for feedback. I think we're all consumers, and it's about getting a group together, actually giving them a glass of wine, some lunch or whatever, and chatting through, actually, here are the storyboards, here's the thoughts and our concepts, what do you think? And not everything, I do agree, not everything you can take and incorporate, but you get the best feedback. Also for us, we work the floor, we open every site ourselves, and we talk to customers as well. And people give us feedback, whether it be on the design, the menu, different elements, and you don't have to change everything, but you do have to tweak things and keep relevant. I mean, we wouldn't have done what we've done in Drake & Morgan without our customers and our teams, because they've been influential even in blending our teas, our coffees, our hot chocolates, actually suggesting to us to do flowers, because we were like, my God, we're a bar and restaurant business. Why would we sell flowers and different things, and actually managing to make money out of that. So I think it's about keeping the head office structure lean. We've got a little place called The Ranch that's our innovation hub for our customers, and it's about talking to customers and spending any cash you have actually on some of the customer research and actually talking to customers. So I don't know what other people think. Maybe
Rohit, please, yeah.
You know, I always say, whenever we go to work, we take the subway. We're not sitting in our limos. And by that I mean, if we keep our hands and feet on the ground, then we can feel the temperature of what's going on in the market, what actually the consumers want. If you put your head above water and you say, oh, you know, and you let ego drive what you're going to do, then most likely you're going to, you may come up with something great. But I think the approach that we take, it doesn't ensure that we're going to be successful, but it will decrease the chances of failure. So we don't necessarily go and do what you earlier just mentioned, but I think we are a product of our experiences. Our experiences every day when we go to eat, whether it's at a quick service restaurant or a fine dining or an unpretentious, you know, casual restaurant, we're learning from what works, what doesn't work, and I know we're all very, very observant. You know, sometimes I walk with my colleague and I go and the lighting is wrong, and I just go, you know, I'll be sitting with Mike and I go, man, I wish you could just turn the light down in this place a little bit, because, you know, so that's something that we're just, because we're consumers and we're observant, that's really part of the process. We're almost educating ourselves every day. So I don't know if it's directly taking your concepts and asking somebody if they like it, but it's about the experiences that we have.
I think I think what you said is right. First and foremost, we're all consumers, and that's the thing to remember. The other thing is you've got to ask the questions and find out what the consumers want. But it's in how you ask the question and making sure that you ask the right question, because depending on how you ask that question or phrase the question will dictate the answer you get back. And too many times, too many organizations think they know the answer, so they'll phrase the question the way they want their answer, and then you'll get what you started with. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the other part of it is, a lot of times people think they know what they want. They don't necessarily know how to express it, but they think they know what they want. What's for sure is they know what they don't want. So you can approach it that way too. And I find that really, really works. And for us as restaurateurs, we need to sometimes try to give people what we think, or we think that they think they might want. So we have to be a little bit a step ahead and interpret what they're telling us so we know which way to go, because it's easy to get lost otherwise. So if you look at how we do things, and you know, maybe people were laughing a little bit with what Ashley said, and I go back to the energy of a space, first of all, but then he has a clear vision of that space once he's gone in there, and then we take that space and we go backwards. It's as opposed to coming into a space and say, well, I'll add this and I'll do this and maybe I'll have this and I got these ideas. It's like you come in, you have a vision as soon as you feel the space, and you work backwards. It's like baking a cake. If you don't put your ingredients, restaurateur baking a cake, I don't know if that's relevant, but it's like baking a cake. You got to have the right measurements of the right ingredients with the right quality, and you got to put them in the right order. And that's sort of the way it goes. And, you know, been lucky, you know, whether we're talking in the States or in the UK or Spain or elsewhere we've done concept, we've been lucky. Our stuff has worked. In Dubai, it's working. You guys are doing the same. You're doing the same. It's in a business that has I believe our industry's got a 96.7% failure rate in the first year for most independent restaurants. And if you survive the first year, I think someone told me the second year failure rate, if you survive the first year, is 99%. And if you look at the group here, you've got what, 7 already up and running? Ashley, how many you got?
12.
12? Like 20 odd? Well, 500 probably with Jumeirah.
200 and odd.
Yeah.
36.
36.
So, and we're all in business. So that comes down to a vision that we see and listening to people, and most importantly, getting people to tell us what they don't like. Because too many times, they'll tell you to your face what they think you want to hear, what you like, and then the moment you turn your back on, they'll go off and tell everybody what's wrong, and you'll never know, and they'll just walk with their wallets. We realize that because we own our own businesses, so we have to be cognizant of that. Whereas maybe just an employee of a business, yeah, sure, it's great, whatever, and then people just walk. But if you don't like a place, you're not going to go back.
I would add to that we've launched 9 concepts in my home country and in 12 other countries as well, and we're constantly evolving. And so besides working the floor and being there and hearing without necessarily asking a question, you're seeing what's happening. But there's also a lot of data that you have at the restaurant. See what people are asking for, what the trends are within your restaurant, and what's happening. So you have to always be a step ahead and continually being brave enough to say, you know what, this doesn't work anymore, bye, I'll put this in now, and have the people tell you by their experience how they're feeling with that.
One more thing to that. A lot of people just look at it and goes, well, I have this much, and I think Jumeirah mentioned it before, well, I got this many restaurants, and some of them have been 10 or 12 years since we refurbished them. And then they wonder why it's not working or not working. If you look at us as independents, every single day we're walking through the spaces, and our GMs are, and they're tweaking spaces, whether they're just picking something up and moving it, or coming in the next day the wall's a different color. Exactly. There is not, we don't sit down in front of a committee of 20 people and then try to raise it to 2 different levels to get things done. We just go in there, we see it doesn't work, and we make a move on it immediately.
And that's the key to success. You have to be able to do it like this.
I also wanted to stress up one more thing, which was the key, the X factor we see is emotional connectivity. Can your product deliver emotional connectivity? Now, that doesn't mean that because you created some little gimmick and you think, oh, that's going to be really cool. The customers are smart. They're not looking for gimmicky things. Customers want flair. They don't want flash. Can you deliver flair?
Stickiness.
Can you deliver emotional connectivity? Because when you deliver emotional connectivity, and I'm not saying that it should have only one USP or one emotional connectivity, because that could cater to him, but he may not find that attractive. So you've got to have multiple points of emotional connectivity so that ultimately that creates word of mouth, because ultimately there's nothing more than word of mouth that's going to drive your business if you're in the restaurant. But the moment you start putting ads out, that usually means that you're in trouble.
That's true. I think, is that, yes? The great news is everyone who's on the panel here is coming to dinner. So for those of you that want to seriously approach each and every one of them and have one-on-one discussions with them, they're going to be available. And if they weren't, they are now. Apparently. So we might wrap that up there, I think. Jonathan, if you've got anything else that you want to?
As being host of the session, I have the privilege of asking a question.
Please.
The final question. Even though we've run out of time, I'm going to ask a question. We had Ian Schrager receive the Lifetime Achievement Award last week at our conference in Berlin. And he said one of his great concerns was when creating, what he called his masterpieces, that the brands come in and just copy. And they take those concepts and copy. So it was interesting hearing what Ashley had to say. You're scared about moving. taking that one concept and putting it somewhere else, making it very bespoke for that particular city or location or whatever. But do you see that, these lifestyle hotels, and in the space that I play in more, boutique hotels are all becoming the same again, so it needs to be reinvented.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key points, and it's, once again, we've got an amazing panel of experts here, is the days of replication are almost to an end. We've kind of taken as many concepts as we can and replicated them. And we really need to kind of strip back and go back to the grassroots of innovation again. And it was mentioned almost by everyone sitting here today. There are some fantastic, and I can think of 4 or 5 already, concepts that are here that have come into Dubai that have then been replicated by other entities in this market. And we need to kind of stop that process and be more about innovation and bringing in things like, Morgan and Drake, and bringing in things like Iron Fairies, or that style that we haven't done yet, but making it a unique standalone piece on its own. So something that actually stands up against the test of time and is not just necessarily a replication. I mean, I think even, talking to Jason about, what's happening with Noodle House. Noodle House is going to go through an evolution fairly soon, but it is an evolution that doesn't change the core essence and DNA of Noodle House, just brings it further forward. So I think the days of replication are pretty much done, and the days of creation and innovation is really where the F&B market is going to go here.
Okay. All right, well, Duncan, I'll let you wrap it up.
Thank you very much. So I'd just like to thank everyone on the panel, Gillian, Ashley, Jason, Ismail, Rohit, and Marcus. Thank you all very much.
Well done, mate. Great job.
Thank you, guys. That was absolutely fascinating. Actually, Ashley, while you're on stage, any chance you can design our stage for next year?
It needs it.